All flights in and out of Gatwick, Britain's second busiest airport, have been suspended after 2 drones were seen flying near the runway.
Dangerous encounters between planes and threats controlled from the ground has seen one more.
A near nightmare in the sky. A passenger plane nearly crashes into a camouflage drone.
Yes, drones and airplanes, they really don't mix. And the trouble is they're getting closer and closer as time goes on. So, should they be banned altogether? Well, no, of course they shouldn't be banned altogether. I love flying drones, as I'm sure you do too, but there are new regulations coming out that you need to be aware of. So what are they, and what can you do to be a safer drone pilot? It's no secret that I love flying drones. I use them on my channel quite a lot when I'm traveling and in my aviation videos. They really are a part of everyday life, and they're a brilliant, awesome bit of technology. But those incidents that you saw at the beginning of this video have really started to shine a spotlight on drone usage, not just in the UK, where Gatwick had that big incident before Christmas, but around the world. And it's starting to resonate here in Australia too. CASA, the Civil Aviation Safety Authority here in Australia, have really started to ramp up their investigation into regulation and accreditation of the pilots who are operating these drones. And before I go on, actually, I use that word not lightly. I do think we should treat people who fly drones the same way, or at least in a very similar way, to how we treat pilots of aircraft. In that, the training obviously doesn't have to be as in-depth, but the responsibility you have for putting something up in the sky that you have to bring safely down to the ground again without injuring yourself or anyone else around you, that responsibility should not be taken lightly. Now, there's no point complaining about changes. I mean, no one really wants regulation, no one really wants additional training, no one wants the cost of these drones to go up. But the trouble is, there are always going to be that 0.1% of idiots out there that spoil it for the 99.9% of us who do fly drones responsibly. I'm sure most of you watching this use apps like CASA's Can I Fly There. You check that you're legally allowed to fly your drone in the airspace you're flying in. You make sure there's no one below you when you're landing the drone. You don't fly the drone above a certain height. You do all the things that you're supposed to do because you're a responsible drone pilot. But the trouble is, there are some pilots out there, oh, let's not call them that. There are some idiots out there who don't take that kind of responsibility in the same way that you do. And unfortunately, they've spoilt it for everyone. So let's not moan about the fact that regulations will come in. Let's accept the fact that it's going to happen. But what are those regulations, and what is the accreditation that CASA are actually proposing for pilots here in Australia? So 2 days ago, CASA put out a request for feedback on the new regulation and accreditation that they want to put forward for RPAs, or remotely piloted aircraft. In this instance, this covers RPAs of more than 250 grams operated recreationally, which basically is any of your common DJI models, anything from the small Spark all the way up to your Mavics, your Inspires, of course. Basically, any drone that you're buying which is not one of those tiny little indoor quadcopter things is going to be covered underneath these regulations. There are a few exceptions, of course, if you're underweight, but also model aircraft at approved airfields, or if you're operating your RPA indoors. Outside of that, which is basically 99% of your main drone usage, with 99% of the main drones on the market, will be covered by these new regulations. And this consultation has been broken down into 2 parts, like I say. First of all is accreditation. How they're going to make sure the pilots are correctly trained for using drones. Now, the accreditation side will be free. CASA are proposing an online education course. They say here, which is interesting, basically watch a video and answer a quiz on the drone rules that apply to you. However, if you already hold a drone license, you will not have to do this course. The wording of that does worry me a little bit, especially when they say basically you'll just have to watch an online video and answer a few questions. As anyone who's done any kind of informal online training before, you know that when there are systems like this, you can basically keep doing the test until you get the right result, and you don't necessarily learn along the way. You're just basically trying to get as many green ticks as you can to get the certification at the end. So I'm a little bit worried with this online accreditation that it won't really be taken seriously by everybody. And if the point is to educate pilots into how to fly drones, not sure that this is the best way to do it. It's a stepping stone, don't get me wrong. Then, as well as accreditation, drones will have to be registered. Now, the registration is still being sorted out by CASA. There will be a cost associated with it. They're saying here it's likely to be a $20 or less annual fee per person for recreational drones and for some model aircraft operators. There will also be an annual registration fee likely to range from $100 to $160 per drone for each commercial drone. So depending on what you're using your drone for, if it's just recreational YouTube, just stuff that you're doing personally, there's going to be a small annual fee that will obviously go up if you're using your drone for commercial filming purposes. I totally agree with the idea of registering drones individually. I know that the idea of paying an additional fee on top of that will be disliked by some. It's a shame that can't be absorbed into other costs and that the registration will have to be paid for, but at the end of the day, I do agree that drones should be identifiable to the owners. And if that's through this registration process, then to be honest, I don't disagree with that. In addition to the accreditation and regulation, there are a few other thoughts I had with drone usage, and this is what I want to get your thoughts on in the comments below. Now, as well as registering a drone to an operator, I've often wondered if, just like an aircraft which is fitted with a transponder, is there not something that we can put into drones so when they are airborne, they can be easily seen by air traffic control and easily seen by other aircraft? And that could be something like a transponder-based system so that every aircraft has to transmit where it is, its position at any time. Why can't drones have the same technology? Now, I understand there will be big costs here. I understand the price of drones will probably go up, maybe even double, triple, I don't know. But at the end of the day, when I'm flying as a pilot, if I knew that every drone that was operating had to have a transponder installed, and therefore I would be able to see it as traffic on my screen when I'm flying around, that for me would actually make me a lot more confident flying around busy built up areas. Then on training, I mentioned before that accreditation, the online test that CASA are putting forward. Look, I think it's a stepping stone, but I don't think it's foolproof, and I'm not sure everybody is going to learn from that process. There are a number of very good RPA certification operators in this country and around the world who will train you how to fly your drone legally and safely. I question whether that should be a mandatory requirement before you're allowed to fly a drone in any country. Yes, it's cost prohibitive, and yes, it means that when you get your drone for Christmas, you can't just take it out the box and launch it that afternoon. But at the end of the day, I'm not looking to have more drone pilots around the world. I'm looking to have safer drone pilots around the world. And if it means that some people won't be able to fly drones, but equally it means those that do will fly them more safely, I think we are actually at that junction, and I would rather go down the path of safety. And then there's the subject of penalties for people who do break the rules, because let's be honest, people will always break the rules. Despite how much training you give, despite the technology you put in place, at the end of the day, people are still going to be stupid. I did some research before this video about the penalties that people have been given for flying drones illegally. And generally it's a fine, and generally that fine has been around $1,000. I think that's pathetic. If you're going to have a penalty for doing something that bad with a drone, then to be honest, a fine of $1,000 just isn't going to cut it. You really need to make penalties more severe. Now, I know it is hard to gather the evidence and it takes a lot of manpower to actually prosecute. You can't just go off a social media post. You need to prove that that person was flying the drone illegally, irresponsibly. But if you can prove it, then the penalties have to be severe. Now, some of you may think, well, this is just a whole bunch of admin and red tape, and these are just drones. Why can't we just fly them responsibly? Look, at the end of the day, I wish it was that case too. I really do. But I honestly think the days of free flying drones are over. We need a license to drive a car, we need a license to ride a motorbike, and we certainly need a license to fly an aeroplane. And like I say, I think those days of free flying our drones in the sky, getting them out the box after Christmas and sending them up that afternoon, I think they have to come to an end. So what can you do? Well, a couple of things. First of all, let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you agree with what I said here? Do you think the regulations that are coming in are right? Do you think CASA should do more? Do you think we should be doing less? I really want to hear your thoughts. So let me gather your opinions down below in the comments. Also, have your say with CASA as well. I'll put a link to their online feedback form about the new regulations that are coming in. Please jump online and let CASA know what you think about the regulations. And finally, and possibly the most important thing to take away from this video, and I know you're a good drone pilot. You're a responsible drone pilot, and I know you're not going to do anything silly, but you might know someone who is or has done, or you might know someone who's posted some footage and they've kind of said, oh, look at me, I've flown this drone over an airport, or I've flown at nighttime, or man, I've sent that drone so far I can't even see it. Just be a good mate to them and remind them about the regulations. Be the responsible pilot and help the people around you realize that it's a privilege to fly something like this in the sky, and it's a privilege that we don't want to lose. Regulations may come in, but we don't want to inherently lose the joy of flying these things in the sky ourselves. But if people continue to be stupid, then we will lose that, and drones will either be banned entirely, or you'll need such stringent licensing that people just generally won't get into it and the industry will die. And we don't want that to happen. Alright, let me know in the comments below, like I said, your opinions on this video. Also, be sure to jump on that CASA link, which I'll link to below as well, and let them know what you think about the regulations. If you love your drones, give this video a like, and if you're not a subscriber to the channel but you enjoy your aviation tech and travel content, click that subscribe button. It really means a lot to me to see the channel grow. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.